episode of The Completionist. In honor of EVO this week, I finally decided to complete Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. What the hell? What is this?
Master Hand. A Master Hand.
Master Hand. This is what... These are the bits that we do now. What are you just touching my face? Get away. Foundation of design and gameplay were more than enough to provide support for a thriving future franchise. And Masahiro Sakurai knew that this was the case, which is why he damn near killed himself while creating the sequel. Super Smash Bros. Melee was set to be one of the very few titles for the Nintendo GameCube. For Sakurai, the game's head of production was sacrificing his weekends, vacation time, and general well-being to ensure that it would deliver on and things were never the same. It quickly became everyone's favorite game ever. Sold over 6 million copies, spawning a legacy of other games. These dudes are still lugging around CRT TVs and little purple consoles to play in tournaments. Yo, fuck committed relationships, fuck marriage, that's dedication. Melee obviously means a whole lot to a whole lot of people, including myself. It's a special game in a lot of ways, due in no small part to all the stuff they managed to cram inside of it, which means that I've got my work cut out for me when it comes to completion. The first thing I'll have to do is unlock all the secret characters, so that I can then take the entire cast one by one through classic mode, adventure mode, and all-star mode. Wait, that's only the first thing I have to do?
Yeah, motherfucker, this is it!
Damn. Okay. Then the next thing I'll have to do is complete Melee Stadium Mode. It's a collection of missions. That includes the home run contest, the target test, and multi-man melee. While some of these challenges have no definitive ends and merely challenge the players to go as far as long as they can, some of them are completable tests that will require fulfillment. But that Sandbag, that dude goes on forever. He's not bound by man's or anyone else's law. The next step will be to complete all of Melee's event matches, which are specifically designed scenarios with weird rules and stipulations. They're tailor-made to challenge players, and while the early event matches are cute little allusions to Nintendo's history, the latter ones are just master hand-sized middle fingers pointing straight at the players. This could take a while. And last, but nowhere near the least, are the trophies. Those little digital figurines featuring everyone's favorite Nintendo characters are all over this game, and there are a lot of them. Some of them are rewards for completing certain tasks. Others can be picked up while playing the single-player mode, and still others can only be available in the lottery. You know what lottery means: randomness, wasted time, and broken dreams. It's been a long time since I've gone trophy hunting in Melee, but odds are that cranking coins into this hopeless gumball machine and praying to RNGesus are gonna eat up a depressing amount of my time with this game. Trying to collect these things is basically gambling. I'm just glad Nintendo isn't devious enough to try these practices in real life. Oh yeah! Damn. Super Smash Bros. Melee is like hanging out with your friend who loves to play with all of his officially licensed Nintendo action figures. This friend of yours doesn't put much thought into imagining why all these dudes are fighting, but there are just so many of them, and they're all so beautiful and authentic gigantic that it doesn't even matter. Even Melee's glorious opening cutscene fails to shed much light on the narrative behind this clash of the Titans. Somewhere out there's a few lines of text about the Master Hand representing the link between our world and the world where Nintendo toys come to life and curves on each other. And that's probably about it. Ultimately, there are few games where stories matter less than in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. Melee is like a dreamlike crossover in which several of our childhood heroes gleefully shove each other into oblivion. I mean, let's not bury the lead here. This is a game in which an electric rat can take on a gorilla in a necktie. This game is a gift, and through it all, Melee manages to maintain a playful tone, putting it in stark contrast to the many somber tone fighting games out there. In Smash, all of the characters seem like they're just playing with each other. Even the baddies show some good sportsmanship after a match. Hey, get with the program, you disrespectful piece of fluff! It's almost like because there's no real driving narrative in Melee, the characters were free to be designed as close as possible to their classic iterations. Sure, some concessions had to be made. There's no way Ganon would ever team up with a punk like Link. But it's clear that remaining true to source material was a massive priority. Everywhere you look, the characters have animations that are pulled straight from their home titles. And even the original animations seem right at home with their respective fighters. The roster pulls from every corner of Nintendo, from staples like Metroid to more obscure pulls, then to Nintendo's entirely and of course, the blackest man to ever grace a Nintendo console. And somehow, all of these disparate styles work extremely well together. When you put a portly Italian plumber next to a hyper-stimulated race car driver and a genetically engineered psychic cat monster thing, it shouldn't work. But Melee pulls it off. But the real genius of Melee and Smash in general is that its far more celebratory design philosophy extends to every single aspect of the game. The sound design is chock full of wonderfully familiar sound effects, and the soundtrack is made up of classic versions and remixes of Nintendo tunes. Playing Melee is like listening to, now that's what I call Nintendo 4. Which now are they on in 2001?
8,
What are they on now?
66.
66? It simply won't die! Just about every stage is an iconic location from Nintendo history, and they all look great. And even without taking their various layouts into account, their aesthetic variances are crazy, which makes it super tragic that the competitive community insists on only using a handful of these stages. Hey, you wanna play Smash with me? I have to rack up some more KOs.
Yo, Final Destination, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Sure, whatever.
No items,
Ah!
right?
Yes! No items, sure.
Top tiers only, Gerard.
Come on! Jesus!
Hiya!
There are simply too many references and Easter eggs stuffed into Melee to even list off. And even if you took away all those little details, this game would still be an excellent Nintendo crossover fighter. But all that extra love and care is what makes this game, made the franchise, legendary. And most of that love and care came from a Japanese guy who somehow refuses to age. It's like he stays alive as long as this game stays alive. So if that's the case, keep playing Melee. Let's keep Sakurai alive. Super Smash Bros. Melee accomplished a lot. It skillfully refined its predecessor's mechanics. It added a ton of new and creative content to its package. And most importantly, it's cultivated a near-perfect fighting system that's made the game seemingly immortal. This game has its fair share of hoops to jump through along the road to completion, but almost all of them are dealt with automatically as players naturally explore all that Melee has to offer. Smash is more popular than Zach Morris, so you probably already know the deal when it comes to the basics. Life bars are out, damage percentages are in, and knocking your opponent off the platforms is the only way to win. The fundamental attacks, specials, and grabs all make a return from the first Smash, and Melee introduces its fair share of series staples, like side specials, air dodges, and chargeable Smash attacks, not to mention wave dashing, and all sorts of other high-level techniques that I'll never be able to perform. At the most basic level, Melee is extremely approachable thanks to its intuitive controls, but at the same same time, this game also is the epitome of mechanical depth. It kind of has two faces, both of which are perfectly valid thanks to all of the content that's contained inside. Take the items for existence. I like the items. I don't have to have them in every single match, but they give this series a sense of identity. Even the most hardcore item-hating players can't deny the appeal of forcing a flower on your opponent's head. And look at Mr. Saturn. It feels great to pick him up and throw him at a buddy. You have to wash your hands afterward, but it's worth it. The stage designs provide further depth, since each level dramatically changes how each battle can be fought. And you introduce some of the most iconic Smash stages of all time, such as Pokemon Stadium, Onett, the Temple and its Pit of Death, and both Battlefield and Final Destination. Oh yeah? Yeah, get out of here. No one asked for you. The very first thing I wanted to complete in this game was unlocking all of the characters, but I had forgotten that doing so requires beating a bunch of single-player challenges or playing hundreds upon hundreds of matches in versus mode, except for Mewtwo. For him, you need to play the game for over 20 hours. So I just left the GameCube on overnight since there aren't any moms around here to accidentally turn it off. I took the single player route to filling out my roster, starting with Classic Mode, the most traditional arcade mode experience you're gonna get out of Melee. Classic Mode takes advantage of all the customization options in the game, giving players a healthy mix of single battles, special battles, and mini-games before dumping them into a fight against Master Hand. Classic Mode is a genuinely fun grab bag of experiences, which is easy enough to complete thanks to its changeable difficulty. When you're taking dozens of characters through one mode, you'll do anything you can to speed things along. Then there's Adventure Mode, which is a predetermined series of non-traditional Nintendo-themed action stages. We're talking bopping through a 2D Super Mario Bros. Level and navigating through a temple to locate the Triforce. Adventure Mode is fascinating, hitting hard with bursts of nostalgia and varied gameplay, beating it over and over isn't that tough thanks to, once again, easier difficulty options. I just wish this mode would change things up each time you play it. The excitement starts to wane on your 15th time through. And then there's also just a gauntlet fight against every single member of the roster. It's just you and your one stock versus the world. After each fight, players visit a rest area with 3 healing items. Once they're gone, that's it. All-Star Mode is a great challenge, but you guessed it, it starts to wear on you when you attempt to complete it with every character. I don't think players were ever intended to do all of that, but it's part of the deal if you want to complete this thing. Which brings us to Stadium Mode for all of your minigame needs. First up is the multi-man melee, which pits players up against gangs of wireframe hooligans. Some fights require beating a certain amount of opponents, while others are about surviving the time limit, but they always feel like walking to the wrong goddamn neighborhood. Target Test. This mode, in all of its character-specific glory, desperately needs to make a return to the Smash franchise. Breaking targets within a time limit on an obstacle course is the closest thing Melee has to a puzzle mode, and it makes the entire game feel richer. Not to mention, it acts as a basic tutorial for every character. And of course, there's the infamous home run contest, with everyone's favorite submissive piece of gym equipment, Mr. Sandbag. Giving him a spanking and going for the high score is what he specifically asks for, so please don't kink shame him. And things get really painful with Melee's event matches, specifically designed fights that ring the theme bell extremely hard, like a battle on Pokemon Stadium against Pikachu, in which the only items are Pokeballs. These matches are fun and exciting, but the last couple are straight up sadistic. The penultimate match is against insanely difficult versions of Master Hand and Crazy Hand, but that's nothing compared to the final match.
Stop it!
The last match pits players against Ganondorf, Mewtwo, and Giga Bowser all at the same time, with all of their AI on steroids. The only way I made it past these monsters was with the help of a sleepy Jigglypuff. Those are the eyes of a killer. But the true metric for completing Melee are those damn trophies. Looking up where and how to unlock these things is like following an unofficial completion roadmap, since they're tied to every single mode and challenge. I may have gotten a lot of them naturally, but many were an absolute pain. Like, take the Mr. Rossetti trophy, for example, which requires beating 5 opponents in Cruel Melee, which is let's not getting 5,000 KOs in versus mode. I don't even like that little dude. But that only covered the trophies that I had full influence over. There were still the ones that can only be obtained through random lottery drops. Sure, you can dump coins into it to pull your chances of a new trophy into the realm of absolute certainty, and you can even grind for those coins in just about any mode, but as a completionist, this type of Gashapon really rubs me the wrong way. They really refined this system in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. With that being said, I ended up eventually surprised by how evenly Melee distributes the trophy collection process across the entire game. Things do end up getting kinda grindy, but it's nowhere near as bad as it could have been. It takes a long time to complete Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Melee was definitely intended to be played for a long time. Maybe not a decade and a half, but it was certainly built to last. The incredibly solid gameplay that we enjoy in Smash today is clearly identifiable in this title from all the way back in 2001. I'm still annoyed that they broke their naming conventions when they stopped titling the sequels after words that mean fight. Smash 4 could have easily been Riot, and Ultimate could have been, I don't know, battle. Yeah, Ultimate is fine. Super Smash Bros. Melee's whole stick is constantly rewarding players as they progress, providing constant incentives to an already stellar game. But there are a couple of extras that are only unlocked after some serious playtime. You know, aside from all the other stuff we just went over. Firstly, when you unlock every stage, you'll also get a nifty sound test mode, and successfully racking up those 5,000 KOs in versus mode will also reward players with a score display to help you keep track of the score during all of those timed matches that we love so much. Well, it's appreciated anyways. But what's really disappointing here is that the game throws absolutely nothing your way for collecting every single last trophy. It didn't even have to be anything big. It could have been some artwork or a behind the scenes video. But at the end of the day, Melee is still fun to play, but this transgression doesn't end up mattering much at all. Complaining about a lack of completion bonus on this game feels like knocking an all-you-can-eat restaurant for not including an after-dinner mint. Just seems petty. While I completed Super Smash Bros. Melee, there were 75 trips through single-player modes, 51 event matches beaten, 290 trophies collected, 135 hours of total playtime, and 1,000 more prosperous years for Sakurai and the reign of Melee. May your destinations never be final. After revisiting this game, it's clear to me why Melee is so special to so many people. Its wonderful gameplay and presentation make it timeless. And even though there are several games like it, there's only one Melee. Accomplishing absolutely everything in the game isn't required to enjoy it. On the contrary, there are myriad ways to experience Melee, ensuring its continuation for years to come. Super Smash Bros. Melee is a living piece of video game history with extraordinary longevity thanks to its passionate design and deep gameplay. Whether you're a Nintendo fan or a fighting game fan, either way, we all win, and it deserves all of your time. However, I will say that going that extra mile to complete this game is a bit monotonous. I would not go full completionist on it. Getting all the trophies is a little bit too much. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it.
That's all the time we have for today, guys. So please, as always, let me know what you thought of today's episode somewhere on the internet. If you like what you saw, hit that like button. Leave a comment down below. If you missed last week's video on Paper Mario, you can give it a click or tap right here on the screen. I've been Gerard. Those are the awesome Patreon folks. I'll see you next week for the brand new episode of The Completionist. Bye-bye. My wife. Hey guys, before we start today's episode, I just want to give a quick highlight to a gentleman. Patrick has a company called HDRGB. It's kind of this one-man army, a couple of guys working with him, and he mods consoles. He mods Dreamcast and Genesis and Nintendo and Famicom and all this stuff, a higher resolution. Natively, older consoles have the ability to output in a 480p looking screen, and unfortunately in the States, most of our stuff wasn't native. Whereas in Japan and in Europe, they had natively built in, but you had to get a certain kind of cable. And so what he does is he mods these consoles to output in this true native nature with a cable out. And then you can get a converter and even upscale them to 720p and 1080p resolution. Now, why would you want this in today's day and age? You can just download everything to your virtual console. Well, not everything is available in the virtual console, and sometimes you actually just want to play with a actual controller. You want to play with an N64 controller. You want to experience it the way that you want to in nice definition on your television. So I really want to say thank you to Patrick and his team who bought these consoles. I got one of these over at EGLX back in March, and we recorded all of today's episode with this console. It lights up blue. It has an RGB out cable to output in SCART to a converter that does 720p and 1080. So it's really clean. I really believe in it. I think you guys should definitely give it a look. If you want to support Patrick and his team, go to hdrgb.com or check him out on Instagram at hdrgb, as well as Twitter, hdrgb. Guys, go support them, support us, all that fun stuff. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Mario Kart. I think it turned out pretty good. Enjoy. We have Mario to thank for so much. He was there when Nintendo saved home consoles. He gave plumbers everywhere a dream to aspire to. He made overalls sexy. But most of all, he's been at the forefront of revolutionizing video game genres. Arguably the most famous of these is the racing genre with the Mario Kart series. Even the completely video game illiterate can enjoy a rousing race at a moment's notice. Mario Kart is truly the everyman game. Super Mario Kart may have kicked things off, but the Mario Kart we know today was really established in its second generation, which some consider to be the best Mario Kart of them all, which is why today I'm completing Mario Kart 64. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Complete List. Today on the show, I'm doing something a little bit different. Sometimes you want to get on the open road and enjoy that air. Today, we're going to be completing Mario Kart 64, an all-time classic. So get ready, my friends. It's going to be an awesome damn time. Oh my god. Oh my god, I killed him. This is evidence. To the camera, to the camera. I'm out, I'm out, I'm out. Yes! Mario Kart 64 had a substantial impact on my gaming youth. I remember fights with my brother over characters. I remember the joy it brought me when I opened it up for the first time. I remember it frustrating me and pushing me into a new capacity for swearing. And it seems that every person even mildly interested in video games has at least one iteration of Mario Kart that became very special to them. In 1991, F-Zero was released for the Super Nintendo. And after successfully bringing blistering single-player racing to home consoles, Miyamoto looked to create the same feeling, but this time with multiplayer. The Nintendo developers were more than willing, but unfortunately, the tech within the Super Nintendo wasn't entirely able. To enable split screen, the tracks couldn't eat up as much processing power, and therefore couldn't be as sophisticated as their F-Zero inspiration. Despite that, they created Super Mario Kart, and it still went on to sell over 4 million copies. Fast forward to 1995, and the Nintendo 64 is about to be unleashed upon the American market, and lead directly to several cases of eye strain, childhood carpal tunnel, and countless nostalgia memes. things were set for Mario Kart's follow-up to release as an N64 launch title, when suddenly development resources were pulled and reallocated to a different title. Presumably, that other game was Super Mario 64, and eventually, Mario Kart 64 dropped and became the second best-selling game for the console. Eventually, you were hard-pressed to find anyone who didn't have either Mario Kart 64 or GoldenEye at the ready for quadra-player mayhem that led to all sorts of little brother fistfights and ruined sleepovers. There's a special place in hell for all you odd job users. Everything is on very high shelves. Mario Kart 64 harkens back to a time when you were forced to have real-life, physically tangible friends if you wanted multiplayer experiences. You know, instead of against some 9-year-old from across the country that has learned a surprising amount of hate speech. Thankfully, completing Mario 64 is pretty straightforward. I'll be focusing on the single-player mode since there is really no concrete completion criteria in Versus. I'll be donning my cowboy hat and boots and walking this lonely road, the only road that I've ever known. Guys, Green Day is so hardcore. The Mario Grand Prix is where the majority of the completion process lies. It's essentially the rule of force here. There are 4 difficulties: 50cc, 100cc, 150cc, and the unlockable extra mode. Each difficulty has 4 cups: Mushroom, Flower, Star, and Ringo. And in each of these are 4 tracks. My goal is to nab gold in each and add them into my digital trophy shelf where my digital dad can pretend to be digitally proud of me. All that remains is getting hella low times on certain tracks to be haunted by the staff ghosts. Essentially, the chance to race against the replay of someone on the development team. Man, this staff ghost thing is gonna be a creepypasta as soon as someone on the development team dies. I know it. I gotta be real. I am ready for a good old head down and march straight through kind of completion process right now. After doing Super Smash Bros. Melee recently, my desire for unlockables and extra modes is a bit, I can't even think of the word. My brain is still filled to the brim with bogus trophy requirements. Now, the only thing I'm really worried about when it comes to completing Mario Kart 64 are reopening those childhood wounds. I remember controller creaking frustration as red shells hit me right before finish lines. And no matter what I did, no matter how fast I furioused, the rubber banding was there to hold me back. And like all the titles of this era, it still has to live up to the nostalgia built up for it over the last 20-odd years. Something that the N64, in my opinion, has a difficult time living up to. Since the shift to 3D was so major for the last console of the millennium, a lot of looks and features now feel incredibly dated. But it's so nostalgic! What could possibly go wrong? Oh, come on, those aged well. Sort of. Okay, maybe not. Mario Kart 64 is considered by many to be the best in the series. There is no denying that it is one of the best games for the Nintendo 64, but nostalgia is a powerful mistress. Is it the ultimate kart experience? I can't truly say it is. Time can be cruel. As far as premise goes, there isn't much to be said here. You know that time in elementary school when all of a sudden everybody was into yo-yos? Well, the same thing happened to the Mushroom Kingdom, except with small 4-stroke engines. Everyone here has got themselves a go-kart, and now it's on like a West Virginia prom. The game really just ignores the whole context thing, which has become standard operating procedure for Mario's forays into other sports. Nintendo essentially takes Mario, puts him in a new uniform, keeps Bowser naked for some weird reason, and then says, they do this now. Enough said. Not to say they're being lazy. You don't need much of a narrative if the gameplay is strong. This is really the generation where you saw the Mushroom Kingdomites intermingle. Smash Brothers, Mario Party, and Mario Tennis were all around the corner. Mario Kart 64, as one of the earliest of these fan servicey games, has all of the ingredients, but it doesn't feel as full after all of these years. I guess we've been spoiled by the wealth of quality pouring out of the fastest developing medium in human history. The N64 just didn't have all of its capabilities discovered at that point, resulting in a game that feels a little underdone. To be real, visually speaking, Mario Kart 64 hasn't aged aged very well. In an interview, Hideki Kono said that at the time, having all 8 racers on the screen at one time was costing so much of the processing power that full 3D modeled racers were impossible. That's how we got the pseudo 3D sprites on the characters, items, and even some of the obstacles. I kind of remember noticing this as a kid too. I caught that the characters just didn't seem to fit in. It's like I was about to go on a blind date, and when she arrived, it turned out that she was a cardboard cutout. Now the date was still fun. We had a lovely pasta primavera, walked down the promenade, hung out with some of her work friends, but she just looked out of place. The basic sounds too kind of suffer from the limits of the N64. When Mario barks out the "Whoa!", it sounds like he's in the other room with his head under a pillow. And has anyone to this day figured out what in the blue hell that noise is that Donkey Kong makes in this game? It sounds like someone is shaking a baby cow. Don't worry about how I know that. That baby cow owed me money. Although this did turn me on to say my favorite Wario quote of all time. I'm like on the Wii.
Weird. Cool, so I'll see you at the bar.
I'm like on the Wii.
Can you please just stop being a creep for once? I need you to stop being a creep.
I'm like on the Wii.
You're gonna wee. Grow up, Gerard.
And that's where my criticisms end. The levels themselves are vibrant and well-stocked with enough personality to keep my eyeballs interested. Moo Moo Farm and Luigi Raceway may be simple, but the colors are so intoxicating. And although some of the sounds may be less than optimal, the music is top of the heap. It's some of the best to come out of the Mario series. From the title sequence all the way to Rainbow Road, I never stopped humming along and bobbing my head in childish glee. The game establishes a poppy jazz motif, with each course having its own distinguishable theme, and each one is killer. Luigi Raceway gets me pumped, Koopa Troopa Beach makes me want a pina colada, and Rainbow Road's theme makes me want to run through a meadow, completely naked, just accepting myself. Mario Kart 64's presentation overall may have some fraying at the edges, but it still feels good to come back to play after all of these years. It has some performance issues during 4-player split screen, and speedrunners have ripped every hole imaginable into the lap detection of the game. But on the whole, it's still a tight package. Now, I'm not exactly what you would call a car guy, but I know that, despite a little rust, Mario Kart still has plenty move juice in the old gas hole. I know I kind of railed on the looks, but the game still has a lot of beauty under the hood. That being said, drive any car for long enough, and things are bound to wear down. How effective the gameplay is and my capacity to improve determine how tasking the completion process is. I was happy to once again wrap my hands around that freakish controller and get back to my childhood days of tossing turtle shells and drifting mad asphalt. As always, Nintendo stays true to tradition and keeps the controls basic. Mario Kart 64 introduces plenty of mainstay mechanics to the series. Jumping and drifting had always been a part of the kart series, but it was in its second iteration when we would be introduced to the drift boost. Learning everything is simple, and once you get it down, you really feel in control of some less than typical handling. The characters are few, but they're all that you need, as the primary stars of the Mario series are all represented, and Wario too. Who begs a good question. Who is your Wario? Mine is either Zach Galifianakis or Fat Free Ice Cream. I found Yoshi to be the most useful at handling and quickness, but it was fun to dust off Bowser and just throw my weight around as I knock people out of the way of my home turf. Get out of my castle, son! You don't want none of this. The 16 levels benefit from the move to 3D with the ability to change altitude on the course. I don't know if you remember Super Mario Kart on the SNES, but there were no hills or valleys, and all of the jumps were vague yellow bumps instead of ramps. And if you have yellow bumps, you don't have a race course. You have a throat infection. I looked it up. The change in depth allowed for a much more unique feel wheel from course to course. This is where Mario Kart became the game we know and love. Now, completing racing games is like a double-edged sword. I mean, repetition is the focus of the game. You have to race each course over and over again until you master it. Therefore, there's always a sense of progression. But when it boils down to shaving off milliseconds, the tracks must be incredible to hold my attention. And for the most part, these did. The Toad's Turnpike can go f*** itself. I mean, why are those trucks driving on the go-kart courses in the first place? And I never remembered Yoshi's level name because I called it Yoshi's Cliff Bastard ever since I first played it. But levels like Wario Stadium and Rainbow Road will never get old for me. After all of these years, the controls did take some time getting used to, but they were never made with the intent of feeling like a go-kart. Controlling a go-kart is much more about cornering. If you tried drifting in real life, you would spin out more than the DJ at your cousin's bar mitzvah. So the sliding, touchy controls of Mario Kart 64 are all a part of the intended experience. All of the goodies are back from the original game. The shells, the bananas, the lightning bolt for Shrinky Dinks. Though it was in Mario Kart 64 where they introduced the fake box, the triple items, the golden mushroom, and yes, the meme machine, the ever-vigilant manhunter, fast pass to being the biggest ass in the world, the spiny shell, more commonly known as the blue shell. Luckily, since I was mostly playing single player, the game took pity and didn't throw as many of them at me as I remembered from my youth. Oh, do you hear that? That sounds like a royalty-free cover of the Spinner song Rubber Band Man. Why? Because he's here in all of his restrictive glory. Yes, in single player, no matter what you do, the game decides on two jerks that are always going to be on your ass. I understand how it's supposed to increase the amount of tension in a race instead of just letting the enemies get blown out of the water. The only issue with it is that this can lead to some pretty gut-wrenching final moments. Because their contract negotiations did not work out, sort of thing. While Mario Kart 64's single-player mode is maybe a little underdeveloped, it kept me more than entertained throughout its duration. Nabbing gold in all three modes and then unlocking an extra mode was pretty breezy. I wish I could say the tale ended there, the happy little kiss or something. Unfortunately, what waited for me were 3 course time trials in Luigi Raceway, Mario Raceway, and the Royal Raceway, achieving certain times will unlock the staff ghosts, a replay of one of the members from the development team beating the level. At first look, the requirement seemed innocuous enough at a minute 52, a minute 30, and 2 minutes and 45 seconds respectively. I could not have been more deceived. Unlocking these took a monumental amount of repetition, research, and trial and error. Despite my love for the raceway courses, I was ready to break up with them. And I mean in a brutal way, like at the altar or on the Jumbotron. I found myself screaming, "This feels like padding!" But for the love of Genova, after 20 goddamn hours and countless laps, I f***ing did it. May my aching thumbs enjoy their place in Valhalla come Ragnarok. In the end, Mario Kart 64 may not be the prettiest person at the ball, but they can still groove. I'm almost ashamed to say that the aesthetics wore on me so much since I had a great time playing. The muddy sounds don't change the fact that it's paired with a kick-ass soundtrack. The pixelated characters are still cradled in excellent level design, and the cheap rubber banding effect is only a minor blemish on tight and addictive gameplay. It almost makes me want to go out and jump inside of a Mario Kart myself, but I'm so fragile that Yeah, I hurt my ankle just thinking about buying one. After that giant cheap barfed up my last trophy and all the time trials were beaten, my journey was essentially over. And the lack of resources for this game is shown in spades by its unlockables. And by unlockables, I mean unlockable. 1. By getting first place in all of the Grand Prix in the game, you are rewarded with, drumroll please, a different title screen. Whoopee! 30 hours of work and I get a brand new cover for my Trapper Keeper. It's like going through 4 years of college and all I got to show for it was a piece of paper. I guess you could consider the Staff Ghost trials unlockables as well, but after you get them, there isn't much you can do other than, well, try what you were doing before, which was getting a better time on the course. After that, there's nothing left for your single player heart to achieve. it's best to move on to getting real friends and playing on the multiplayer split screen. You can also check out the battle mode with its 4 levels of varying murderousness, but I always found the fun of battle mode to be pretty short-lived, and somehow I was always stuck with the goddamn banana peel. What am I, desperate for laughs in the 1920s? If you're looking for an additional challenge, might I recommend getting 4th in every race of a cup. When you finish, you will see the only narrative cutscene in the game. You're a lonely character who watches the top 3 contenders go to their glory and is left behind to drive off the hill like a lonely cowboy. That is until a bomb comes to ace your ass right after you get to your moment of noble defeat. Ain't life a bitch? If that wasn't strange enough, then go ahead and check out the league of unintentional shortcuts that speedrunners have found throughout the game. But beyond your own machinations, you're not going to find anything else waiting for you. No 100% bonuses, no extra characters, and no additional courses. That's never what the game was about in the first place, though. It wasn't about the full-fledged single-player mode. It was about the multiplayer effect, of which there were another 100+ hours of gameplay available to you. Completing this game top to bottom was extended and arduous, but completely surmountable by my callous completionist fingers. The single-player campaign can almost be done in one playthrough, barring any tragic RNG. And the Ghost Trials, while difficult, can be done on the right day with the right mix of caffeine and ramen. While I completed Mario Kart 64, there were 3 Ghost Trials unlocked, 64 Grand Prix races won, 523 time trial attempts, damn it, 30 hours of total playtime, and 6 times I hugged people in the office and whispered, I'm gonna win. Frazier almost quit. So there you have it, Mario Kart 64. In my opinion, age has not been too kind to this one. At the end of the day, it is a pretty straightforward game to complete, but it kinda has a little bit of rust on it. I think every game after Mario Kart 64 is incredible. Double Dash, even the Nintendo DS version of Mario Kart. Unfortunately, while it isn't as good as it could be, at least it set the precedence for what Mario Kart should be going forward. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it. Oh, hey, my wallet. That's all the time we have for today, guys. So please, as always, let me know about today's episode somewhere on the internet. If you like what you saw, hit that like button, subscribe, let me know what future episodes of the show you want to see here on The Completionist. A big shout out to RGB, guys. If you want to go check him out in his business, please go do so. Him and his team are awesome. They've been real supportive of us. This Mario Kart episode was made possible because of them, so go check him out. And if you want to see more HD goodness, you can check out our episode on Beer Bros we did with the tech. I'll see you next week after I figure out what to do with Bradley's body. Like, I know it's buried, but if someone finds it. Thank you for watching, and welcome back to a brand new episode of The Completionist. I'm gonna really date myself here, but back in my day, when I was a young kid, we had a little place called Blockbuster Video, which we rent movies and video games from. And one of my absolute favorite consoles in this day, until this day, is the Super Nintendo. I got so much mileage out of this console that I cannot wait for the SNES Classic. Anyways, with Blockbuster, because my parents didn't want to buy me new games all the time, I would play a lot of games, I would rent as much as I could. It didn't matter if the game was good or bad, I had 5 days to complete it before I could return my game. So, I guess in a way, this is kind of the true origin story of The Completionist. I trained for this my entire life. Growing up, I didn't really have access to cable or television altogether. I was probably 11 or 12 when we finally got it in my house. But one show I never really got to watch was The Simpsons. I knew enough from watching episodes at friends' houses or sleepovers, phrases like, I am so smart, I am so smart, S-M-R-T, I mean S-M-A-R-T, and this Michael Jackson episode, you know, Lisa, it's your birthday, happy birthday, Lisa. These were ingrained. shelf one day at Blockbuster Video was a game that truly gave me a nightmare. You could say it was one of the few rental games that got away besting me, especially because early on, Blockbuster policy required you to cartridge altogether. I remembered all these stories recently when I was at a convention, and I realized that I never completed The Simpsons Bart's Nightmare. Today, that changes. Let's go! Yes! It's no surprise that The Simpsons is one of the most popular cartoon shows of all time. Personally, I don't know anyone immediately around me who still watches it today, but there's no denying the cultural impact the show has had all over the place. And what could be better than a successful cartoon show? Why, all of the random merchandise to go with it, of course. I think we can all say safely that The Simpsons single-handedly has the most and manufactured all over the globe. I would even go on to say that it may be even the biggest and most bootlegged brand in the United States. Spider-Man, SpongeBob, and anything Disney is definitely up there though. Now, all of this is just me guessing, but my guessing stems from legacy. The Simpsons has been around for quite some time. The amount of shirts, plushies, figurines, cups, keychains, and so much more that I can't even think of is through the roof. Hell, you can go to Universal Studios Hollywood today, right now, and go on the Incredible Simpsons ride and buy all kinds of crazy ass merchandise afterwards. Definitely love the license plates that say Bort. I want to name someone or something Bort one day.
Are you talking to me?
No, my son is also named Bort.
Not to mention, the world was in hysterics in the late 80s and early 90s for one particular Simpsons character, Bart. Dubbed as Bartmania at the time, Bart had more merchandise produced of him than any other character out of the franchise. Huh. What was the point of all of this? Games! Yes, video games! Okay, there are a lot of Simpsons video games out there, especially ones about Bart, with Bart being in the title as the main character in some capacity. Most of them, from the ones I played at least, aren't very good. And one of the most requested games here on the show is The Simpsons Hit and Run. And I do have plans on doing that game sometime next year, but for now, let's prepare to endure this wonderful piece of gaming in 2017. Lately, all the videos I've been watching have been all about new games, and I really want to try and go back to my childhood and play games that I either loved or hated, for better or for worse. And for some weird ass reason, young Gerard used to cry over trying to get his parents to buy him this game time and time again. I cried a lot. I sucked. But that's how I got my games. By crying. I'm almost 30 now. Bart's Nightmare was developed by Sculptured Software, which would go on to develop a lot of different games from the mid-80s to the early 2000s, ranging from adaptations of licensed properties to porting arcade and PC games to console. Sculptured Software was almost working as a contracted developer for Acclaim, as a lot of their games were either funded, published, or distributed by Acclaim. Funny enough, the founder of Sculptured Software sold the company to Acclaim and is actually now the co-founder of Salt Lake Comic-Con. Did you know gaming that, Shane? Did you know that? Did you know gaming? Did you know that, huh? How do you like me now, Shane? Just love me, Shane. That's all I want. Bart's Nightmare was released on the SNES and Genesis, and yeah, no one really cared about this game at all on the internet, except maybe PBG.
What's up, Gerard?
No. I was saying that you don't really care about this game.
What, Bart's Nightmare? Yeah, it's alright.
You're one of the only people that made a video on it.
Yeah, like I said, it's pretty good. Play some games, and you get a grade.
Why are you here?
I don't know, you said my name, I guess.
Is that how all this works?
Bye.
Without a doubt, this game is going to be a weird-ass time. It's short, it's bizarre, it's certainly difficult, and it doesn't look very well done. Let's see if I can actually beat this game for the vengeance of young me. Oh, to be young and to fight off horrible game rental nightmares. I guess there's no better time than now than to offer a massive worldwide apology to my parents for making them drag me to the video game store to rent this game over and over and over again, and then eventually force them to go to Toys R Us to buy the game for me. I don't know what was going on. I was young. I'm so sorry. I'm almost 3 now. Forgive me. I love you very much. In case you have never ever seen The Simpsons before, wait, no, you know what? Hold on. No. The game doesn't even tell you anything more than what we need to know, so I'm gonna tell you exactly what the game wanted to tell you. From the perspective of buying a game about a TV show you generally would know nothing about, just know that The Simpsons essentially created the idea of world building to the masses. Several modern cartoons have adopted the practice of having massive extended casts that will often interact with the main characters. This world building ended up becoming the standard, as now all cartoon shows do this. South Park, SpongeBob, Family Guy, American Dad, Steven Universe, Futurama. Yes, you could argue that that's the standard of which all cartoon shows have nowadays. But The Simpsons were the first, and thus the term was born. Bart's Nightmare has you playing as Bart Simpson, the eldest kid in the Simpson family. Apparently, while Bart was working on a very important homework assignment, he fell asleep and is locked into a very deep nightmare. Within the realm of this bad nightmare, Bart must find the 8 pages to his homework assignment so that he can turn his homework in for a good grade. As a premise, this isn't actually all that bad. We were all kids once. Some of you watching right now still are kids, so we can easily relate to the idea of stressing out because of schoolwork. Dream just to make sure that I'm not naked in front of an audience, or that I do get my diploma, then I would work my ass off. Yes, I still have both of those vivid dreams. Yes, it's been years since I performed on stage and gone to school, let alone turned in an homework assignment. And yes, it still freaking frightens me. Hi, I'm 30. Longtime Simpson fans will appreciate a lot of the nods to the show, with various enemies and bosses coming straight from the cast of the show. Graphically, the characters are spot on. Everything else, well, I guess it all depends on what we're all talking about. On one hand, some of the stages look and sound very much straight out of the cartoon show, while on the other, some of this stuff just looks poorly matched, or even just like it was designed for a different game altogether. The overworld level is very bizarre, equipped with a repeating background that just features the same 2 houses over and over again. Compared to both Genesis and SNES versions, it looks like SNES is king for both audio and visual, and yet the sound effects sound nothing like any of the insanely rich source material. The most one-to-one sound effect in this game is Barney's burps. Pretty dang weird how that's the only sound effect that seems to match. And don't tell me they were limited on what they could do back then. They did insane things with the SNES and the Genesis, specifically Aladdin. Aladdin is tight. As far as the music goes, most of it ranges from, hey, this is passable, to, oh, this is not very good at all, please stop. Stages like Bartman and Itchy and Scratchy captured the essence of the Simpsons show quite well, whereas everything else seems mismatched or lacking music and sound design altogether. Look, I haven't watched a ton of Simpsons, but this Bloodstream looking map always creeped me out as a kid.
Hi there.
That sound will forever haunt me.
Hi there.
The more I hear it, the worse it gets.
Hi there.
You think this is a game?
Hi there.
All right, I've had enough.
Baby on board.
Now that I'm a lot older, I can objectively say this game has got a lot working against it. Young, nostalgic Gerard can't save whatever the hell is going on in this game. If I had to equate how this game presents itself with the quality of The Simpsons show today, I would put Bart's Nightmare somewhere around season 19, maybe 18. What, you thought I was gonna put this game along the likes of Scorpio and Mr. Plow? Get real! Bart's Nightmare is one of the most unique games I've ever played. However, if you take that statement right there and really observe it as a positive, then that's the only statement you may actually get from me that's any good. It is very unique in the sense that I haven't experienced any game like it, but the game lacks so many conventional game design properties that I just have to take a step back and go,
is going on here?
So the point of the game is to acquire the 8 pages of Bart's homework, which involves blowing bubble gum at floating Z's, shooting watermelon seeds, jumping over mailboxes and ceramic demonic heads, running away from old ladies who want to kiss you, having your sister turn you into a frog, avoiding saxophones that invert your controls, and shiftily trying to jump over a basketball to then turn it into a skateboard so that you can find the pages faster while making your life bar even longer.
Is going on here?
All of these little things are almost exclusively designed to kill you in some way. I remember as a kid how upset the game made me at first because for one, it doesn't explain a damn thing to you. While newer games are the culprits that have overbearing tutorials that tick off most gamers today, there has to be a happy medium here. In order to gain hit points, you have to blow bubble gum at floating Z's to get your health. However, your dream life bar will only get the hit points if the bubble gum hits the Z within the bar itself. If you ride the skateboard by jumping over a basketball to then turn it into a skateboard, you can make your bar a lot longer, but honestly, health to me isn't that important. The sprint for the pages are in fact the most important thing in this game. The overworld map, known as Windy World, is dangerous for sure, but it's a place that's designed to screw you over. Your best bet is to run as fast as you can and find the pages as they're floating by. Once you find a page, jump in on it and pick a colored door. Now this is where the game begins. The colored door that you choose will determine what kind of dream game you'll play. These games might as well be considered mini games, but they do feel a little bit more well thought out than the overworld itself. So with that, let's break down as much as we can for the different obstacles we will have to overcome. The question is, where do we start first? Alright, so first up we have this amoeba game where Bart looks like he's deep sea diving in what can only be described as the bloodstream? Or at least the Magic School Bus version of the bloodstream.
We're eggs! Salmon eggs! I guess the yolk's on us.
The point of this game is to avoid getting hit while popping the other invading viruses in the body. Look, I don't know if this is actually viruses or bloodstreams or whatever, but there's no explanation for any of this and what's going on. The blanket statement for this game is in the title. In order to free the page that's being protected by the weird barrier, you'll need to collect these creepy cowboys. For some weird reason, every now and then a translucent cowboy shows up, and if you touch it, it breaks the barrier a little bit. I am very grateful for said cowboy, but the hello there still gets to me.
Hi there.
All right, hold on. I gotta look up where the hell all this comes from.
Can you name your trouble? Smells like a steak and seats 35. Can you narrow?
Okay, so that cowboy right there is a reference to a season 1 episode of The Simpsons called Homer's Odyssey, in which Bart and his school goes to the nuclear power plant and learns about nuclear power. And in that instructional video that plays for the class, they are introduced to a character named Smiling Joe Fission, whose opening line is,
Hi there, energy eaters.
Jesus, did they really expect little kids to really appreciate a super little reference from one of the first seasons of The Simpsons? And also, since I'm looking it up already, I needed to know, yes, I was right, this game takes place within Bart's own bloodstream. So why is he trying to get the Smiling Joe Fissions to release the... Ah, that's right, it's a nightmare. This is a nightmare of a game, got it. Next up, we have Bartzilla, which features Bart parodying Godzilla. This is a 2-part level. The first part features Bartzilla running forward in a straight line in the city of Springfield, with the goal to destroy anything and everything in your way for points. Enemies swoop in front of you, and you'll have to take them down before they hit you. If you get hit, Bart makes this nasty sound effect. This section is fun and all, but it gets really hard real quickly. I found that the only way I could beat this stage was by memorizing what enemies showed up when, especially because Bartzilla has very limited hit points. In most of these games, Bart either has lives, a health bar, or both. But with Bartzilla, you have no idea. It'll snowball quick, and soon you'll be feeling like Bartzilla every time you lose. Once you defeat the first part of the stage, you'll get rewarded with 1 page and will jump immediately into Stage 2. Stage 2 essentially is parodying Rampage and Donkey Kong, where you have to climb a tower to get to the very top. The people of Springfield will throw items out of their windows to take you out to make you fall. Sometimes Marge Simpson, or Mothra, will appear and try to knock you out. As you get to the top, you'll find King Homer, or Homer Kong or whatever, because both names are technically canonically right according to The Simpsons, and he'll be throwing items down at you as well. All you gotta do is climb to the top and you'll get another page. Overall, this isn't too bad to play, but controlling Bartzilla is clunky and weird. And that's most of the controls for this game going forward. The Bartman video game is one of the better ones, and it's based off of the episode 3 Men in a Comic Book, in which Bart attempts to dress as a superhero named Bartman to get a discount on a comic book. This side-scroller superhero shoot-'em-up involves Bartman flying over the polluted skies of the Springfield nuclear power plant. Most of the enemies flying at Bartman from the Simpsons franchise. The twins, Sherry and Terry, Barney, Smithers, and Mr. Burns. Each boss fight is challenging in its own right, trying to make you think about how to build them different tactics. Hands down, this is the easiest, but also one of the most fun. Next up on our wacky things to check out, the Itchy and Scratchy levels. These two stages are the only stages that once you beat them, you are kicked out of the screen and back into Windy World, as Bartzilla and Indiana Bart actually keep going to complete the other pages in the other levels. In any case, Itchy and Scratchy are known as Bart and Lisa's favorite cartoon and notoriously murder one another. Well, in the case of Bart's horrible dreams, they've teamed up to take out Bart. So Bart must run around his own home and grab whatever he can to defeat these two. While this stage is definitely one of the most fun, it's also one of the most frustrating. The hitboxes for Itchy and Scratchy are hard to hit, sometimes with them spawning off screen and attacking you before you can even react. Your life bar almost doesn't even matter because between Itchy throwing a massive knife at you and the evil vacuums combusting on you, you just get killed in one hit. Do you see how Bart's chest is really beating fast here? That's literally how you'll feel the entire time as you awkwardly run away from everything trying to kill you. Last and very much my least favorite is Indiana Bart. This level right here was the biggest contributing factor towards my childhood game rental nightmares. There's not really a massive inspiration from a certain Simpsons episode, I don't think so, as much as it's just a flat-out Indiana Jones spoof. There is, however, an episode in which Bart sneaks into Homer's room and grabs his change bottle and runs away while the Indiana Jones theme is playing, and Homer becomes the rolling ball, with Maggie shooting at Bart. So that's where I can assume this true reference came from, but it looks way more like a straight rip of the original Indiana Jones. Anyway, this Frogger, Qbert-like game has Indiana Bart jumping from pillar to pillar to get to the altar in which a page is waiting for you. However, there are a ton of enemies, booby traps, and so much more. Ideally, using your whip, you can fend off the enemies no problem. However, the layout for the pillars with regard to their traps is ridiculous. It's so freaking awful. If the pillars got too low, they can fall from underneath you. If they have a flame on them, it's instant death. There's even a certain devil that you can't kill, and if you smack him, you automatically die. Not to mention the patience and understanding you'll need to set off the Maggie wall traps. This level gave me nightmares. This level is what the game is all about. And what's worse is that failing costs you your precious Z's. And Z's, while they're not hard to get, can be a huge pain in the ass when you're facing that white foggy screen. This screen is where I lived for months, and there is no continue, there is no password screen, there is no cheat code. It means starting all the way over. Looking at this game with a real fresh pair of eyes, Bart's Nightmare is a bit of a pill to swallow. Only one or two of these levels are really any good, and yeah, there are a ton of references to the show here or there, but the biggest takeaway is this: who is this game for? It's certainly too obscure for young kids to understand, and it wasn't really made to be a timeless classic, as the references in the game are pretty damn specific. But today is not about this awful game just being bad. It's about me overcoming my fears. It's about the young dream. Today, I'm taking out the demonic machine of a young kid's dream. I'm gonna serve it a dish best served cold.
Is it ice cream?
No! Revenge! Hey, wait, that's a Simpsons bit. That was a Simpsons joke. Hey, Ted, we did it.
Well, now I just really want ice cream.
I gotta stop writing you into these bits, Ted. You're really not helping out. So, today's episode, I'm going to make an exception for our old format and spoil the ending. Why? Why, Gerard? Why are you going to spoil the ending? Because there is no goddamn ending! If you have 1 page, 4 pages, or 8 pages, and you die from a game over or beat the game, you are given the end screen in which the Simpsons family judges Bart's final grade on his paper by putting it on the fridge. The ending is almost the exact same every time. Depending on the grade will determine the level of happiness from the family. If you get all 8 pages, you'll get an A followed by the credits. The game starts over, and that's it! Nothing! For a game as hard as this, you think there would be something more. What's worse is that there is more. A is not the best grade you can get. The best grade you can get is A+, which can only be inhumanly obtained if you farm for points in the itchy and scratchy levels. There's a lamppost that's constantly throwing light bulbs to try and kill you. If you've got the fire extinguisher and shoot it at the precise moment, you'll get 200 points every time. Be prepared to sit here for quite a while if you want that A+, because you're gonna need 150,000 goddamn points! But it doesn't matter because at the end of the freaking day, nothing changes. The ending is the exact same, but there's a plus. There's a little plus right there in the fridge. So even if I put all my efforts into beating this freaking game and get the minimum score points of 150,000 for that secret A+, it's all for nothing. In the immortal words of Bart Simpson himself,
can't win, don't try.
in my playthrough of The Simpsons Bart's Nightmare, there were 19 hours of total playtime, 8 pages collected, 96 Z's collected, 35 game overs with 26 of them coming exclusively from the Indiana Bart stage, and 28 times of me listening to Do the Bartman by Bart Simpson featuring Michael Jackson. The song is actually catchy as hell. While I overcame my childhood nightmare of a game today, Bart's Nightmare is a retro game that I do not recommend to any of you guys at home to play today. It lacks a lot of focus, heart, and depth that a SNES or Genesis game should have had. I know it's a stupid statement to say considering how many bad games existed back in the day, but this game clearly had a lot of issues. The fact that the game's director left the games industry after working on the game really shows how the times of gaming production were back then. Cough out that TV show tie-in, it doesn't matter if it sucks, someone will buy it. How about that for another episode of Did You Know Gaming, huh Shane? And while I have your attention, please check out Did You Know Gaming 2. It's a tight new channel made from the guys who made Did You Know Gaming, with more videos and commentary on video game facts. Go subscribe to them. Hashtag non-nat. Seriously, Shane's my friend. Bart's Nightmare is a game that will never haunt me ever again.
So Alex already has actually a pretty decent movie and TV watching setup, but one of the biggest problems with it is the girlfriend appeal factor. He's just using like standard monitors instead of something a little classier.
For those of you who don't know, monitors means powered speakers, not just this kind of monitor.
Speaking of class, thank you for being the classy guy and leaving the gigantic heavy box for me to deal with by myself here. So Sony sponsored this video where we're going to be upgrading his setup with the HTZ9F. This is a Dolby Atmos surround capable speaker bar that apparently doesn't care what size or what shape your room is in order to achieve its virtual surround and top firing speakers. And they also threw in one of their X900F TVs for good measure. So let's go see if we can fix things up a little, shall we?
All right.
Kinda wish we'd brought a dolly.
Oh, how nice of you to catch up.
You know, I've kind of got the heavier load here. Today's gonna be an interesting lesson on both the benefits and the drawbacks of kind of like standards-based marketing. Because we're gonna see that, you know, when you have Atmos, that's better than not having Atmos.
Oh.
Oh boy. So this is the setup then. I see you've got all the features. You've got the Egyptian guy on the front. I actually don't really know what brand that is. You've got your convenient aux cable for plugging it. Do you use this for your phone?
I use it for the laptop, actually.
So I'm guessing you were getting some vibration transfer issues here, and this is a
No, not really. That came with them.
wonderful. Shut up.
Yeah, that came with them.
Shut up. I can't tell if you're joking or not right now.
No, 100%. Because they sound really great, like right here.
So then as long as we're watching TV like this, then everyone's
Yeah, awesome.
very comfortable.
Near-field monitors, good time.
Very, very, very comfortable. Oh, I love
Also-
this very professional, high-grade speaker wire we've got going on here. With convenient red and black coloring. Do you need a hand with this? I think you're supposed to carry these with 2 people.
Well, I'm carrying it with
Is that a
mine.
55-inch?
Yeah.
Oh, so the one we're putting in is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
It's a 65.
I hope
Oh.
it doesn't, like, take over the space.
It's a very first world problem.
We're going to just put this in here.
Do you need, can I help you with
Nope,
this?
this is totally fine. Ooh.
What the hell is this?
I forgot about that.
Oh good, it lights up. Why would you put that on there? I've always gotten such a kick out of the boxes for sound bars. Cause like, it looks really stupid.
So I guess soundbar first? Oh, I'm taking out the subwoofer now.
So part of the fancy magic tech in this guy is that unlike other Dolby Atmos soundbars, which rely on upward firing speakers, this one achieves the virtual overhead surround effect that it has with only 3 forward firing speakers.
Yeah, I have no clue how they do that.
And then that's part also of what makes it not care what kind of room you're in, because it's not actually bouncing the signals. So it must just be something to do with some kind of fancy engineering of like a delay of some sort.
Yeah, there's like delays so you hear it. Like I have no clue how it
But
works.
sound is freaking complicated because there's a lot more to it than just doing this one earlier and like this one later. Because if you think about it, how would you have 3-dimensional perception of sound? How would you know if something is over top of you? Well, it actually has to do with like the way the sound waves like bounce inside the shape of your ear, and like your brain learns to understand that, and the way that the volume changes as it has to kind of like bounce around in there. So it's like not trivial to do something like this. There you go.
Okay, TV's on.
But what speakers does it? Wait, do we even have it plugged into the soundbar yet?
No.
Do you have the quick start guide? So I'm plugged into the.
TV ARC?
Yep.
Awesome.
Did it switch on its own?
Switching audio to external. Oh, yeah. Getting started, searching for devices, Bravia 4K, connecting to your. Wow, is that all that I have to do?
Are you a grill guy or a naked guy?
I'm thinking grill.
Really? If the whole point of this is like better girlfriend appeal.
Yeah, we're putting the grill on.
Put the grill on. All right, that's fair. Don't forget we need room for the sub.
Yep.
Where do you want to put that? I think that side personally, but you can go whichever way you want.
Oh, I was planning on putting it like way over here.
Oh, right, it's wireless.
Yeah, it's a wireless sub. So like that's one of the reasons why I was like, I didn't really want to get a sound bar because you have to like put the sub. Yeah, so I was kind of thinking just like
Stealth mode behind the plant.
Yeah, we go behind the plant, no one knows it's there. Also, one really great feature that I get with this is the ability to turn the bass down. That wasn't a thing with the monitors, which is a problem if you want to watch a movie at like 1 in the morning.
Do we want to do the wireless speakers now, or should we do this later? I kind of want to try it with it first.
Yeah, I was thinking so too.
Okay, cool.
Subwoofer connected. Wow, that was easy.
Really? Oh. Yeah, we probably should. Wi-Fi is probably fine from here.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's
No,
fine
it's
until
fine.
you hit that concrete wall.
No, I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you.
Is it 237 foo?
Yep.
Okay.
106.
6. Just wait. What was that? Do you know which HDMI we plugged it into? 2. Okay, I just clicked on 1.
There we go.
Yes, 4K.
All right, so we can launch Blu-ray disc player.
Oh man, we have Planet Earth 2 in here.
Oh, that's way better. Oh, well,
Yeah. All right.
we should do the demo disc anyway, just so we can hear the Atmos stuff. This all sounds like it's kind of coming from the front.
Yeah, it really does.
I was like, are we supposed to be impressed right now? Let's try that again, shall we?
Yeah, that's much wider now.
So what, there's just like a make it good button?
Yeah, there's a big old button. It's just...
Now I'm getting some definite stuff going on around me. These are pretty cheesy demo animations, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
this sounds nice.
Sony. Honestly, it's kind of idiot-proof. There's not really a lot to change in here, is there?
Yeah, where's the how far away you are setting?
Speaker settings. Oh, here we go. Wow. That is quite the measuring tape you've got yourself there, sir. So we're going to try 9 feet.
Yeah, and we can probably say the subwoofer is what, 11?
All right. Well, do you want to add the satellites?
Yeah.
All right, let's try it. How do we know?
I think that we just hit link on those and maybe it'll just find them. Okay, not connected. Connected was subwoofer.
Oh, I guess we got to do the subwoofer since we did manual linking. It's so cool it has Chromecast built in.
Yeah. It's just a nice... Ooh, hello.
Okay, all right.
Oh, damn. What is that?
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you guys have concrete walls here. I could be sold on that being us sitting in a rainstorm.
Yeah. I also, like, if I was blindfolded and you told me that there are speakers there, I'd probably believe you. Yeah, it really gives you the 360 with those.
Yeah. So there it is, the Sony HT Z9F sitting pretty, taking what once was quite a cluttered setup to a very clean one. It's super impressive how they were able to create that much of a surround sound effect using just the 3 front-facing speakers, not just horizontally, but also vertically with Dolby Atmos. And it's made all the better adding the 2 dedicated rear speakers, creating a particularly immersive movie and TV watching experience.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Well, enjoy.
Yeah, I will.
So thanks to Sony, thanks to you guys for watching. If you disliked this video, then I guess you just hate Alex.
Wow,
and you don't
why
want
would you do that?
And you don't want him to have nice things. If you liked it though, hit like, get subscribed, and maybe consider checking out where to buy the stuff we featured at the link in the video description. Well, here we go. Oh my god, it sounds like a go-kart. So the good thing about flying in a plane from the 70s is that it hasn't fallen apart yet. Legend has it that in 1978, MIT professor Dr. Armand Bose was on a transatlantic flight from Switzerland when the flight attendant offered him a pair of headphones. Shortly afterward, as the story goes, the plane was so noisy that Bose could hardly hear the in-flight music at all. So he fetched a pen and a napkin and began jotting down the first mathematical calculations for how to remove airplane noise from his listening experience. Fast forward 22 years, and Bose released the first active noise-canceling headphones for consumers, followed 18 years later on this installment of Why the
Advertiser-friendly content.
Holding a baby kangaroo, are you guys buying this? The Quiet Comfort 25s, which somehow are still the best-selling headphones on Amazon.com, along with these other super cheap ones. Let's see then, what makes these things so bloody special? Thermaltake's Level 20 cases feature gaming-focused aesthetics, radiator mounting for water cooling, and glass panels. Check them out at the link below. Noise-canceling headphones work by incorporating a microphone, or in this case, microphones, in each ear cup, on the inside by the user's ear and on the outside to measure ambient sound. They take that ambient sound measurement and they compare it to the desired signal coming from your device, and then they generate a new waveform that's exactly equal but opposite to the noise coming in, destroying the unwanted waves by way of destructive interference. So as you can imagine, this technology works better on frequencies that are consistent, which is why noise-canceling headphones are awesome at filtering out noise from airplane engines or HVAC systems, but not so great when it comes to crying babies and annoying coworkers. Since the year 2000 release of the original Quiet Comfort acoustic noise-canceling headphones, now known as the QC1s, Bose has released a new set in the lineup at least every 3 years, including the Google Assistant-equipped QC35 Series 2s that launched in late 2017 for $350. Pretty pricey and out of reach for a lot of people. Now, the best-selling headphones on Amazon, and therefore the true subject of this video, are these QC25s, originally from 2014. They only cost about $180 on Amazon today if you go for the Apple version, with the version for Android devices being $2 more for some reason. But the only difference is the functionality of the inline controls, so we grabbed the Apple version and gave it a shot on an Android phone. Turns out we were actually still able to play and pause our music and even skip tracks, but there was no volume control, and when we tried to use it to hang up a phone call, music started playing instead. So if that stuff matters to you, then you should either pay the extra $30 or try your luck on a cheaper third-party cable. But then hold on a second. As evidenced by my almost entirely faded eyebrow ring scar, it is not the year 2000 anymore. There are actually a bunch of noise-canceling alternatives to Bose, like the super popular Cowan E7s that are a fraction of the price. So how is a $200 product still on top when every other product in this series has been budget AF? Well, it's because low price doesn't mean high value. And people purchase products in order to get a job done, whether that's a soundbar, whose job is to make dialogue easier to hear, a tablet, whose job is to play Netflix in bed and not be destroyed by your kids, or a 4K smart TV, whose job is to be 4K and a TV that's like maybe smart or something. So then, what's the job to get done with noise-canceling headphones? Maybe comfortable airline travel or productivity at your desk. Well, that means that automatically Bose is targeting a more affluent clientele, people with jobs or who travel regularly. And the bottom line is that the QC25s are really good at their job, something that is worth paying a little extra for. Not only do they offer category-leading noise cancellation, they're also really comfortable for hours at a time, and they're super portable thanks to their folding headband and lightweight, rugged carrying case. After all that, the fact that they punch way above their weight in terms of sound quality is almost just a bonus. Now that's the value that we expect in this series. Or at least that's what I would be saying if the 3 top-rated customer reviews for this product weren't all 1 star. Now, if you sell enough headphones, you're bound to get a bad review or 2, but it's become enough of a pattern that it appears as though Bose has been scrimping on the materials lately. A lot of these things seem to struggle to last longer than a year to a year and a half. So, if you're not into that sort of thing, maybe you should save your money after all. Especially considering that the best-selling headphones in the on-ear and the in-ear categories are both super cheap. The most popular on-ears are actually these, the Newt K11s. And I can't quite figure out why, but I do have at least a theory. So they're marketed towards kids with bright colors, a durable braided cable, and a parent-friendly price of just $15. But there's a lot of headphones for kids out there. What makes these ones stand out, I think, is the fact that they're useful for parents too. So the headband expands from child-sized to absolute melon. The sound quality isn't complete trash, and they go loud, which is unusual since a lot of kids' cans have volume limiters on them for safety. I mean, who needs safety when you got convenience, right? The suckiest thing about these, as far as I can tell, is the fit. So the ear cups don't articulate, which means that at least with the pair we've got and on my head, they don't quite sit flush against my ears, so they don't seal particularly well. You won't have to worry about that though with the best-selling IEMs, the Panasonic ErgoFit earbuds for under $10. Of the 54,000 reviews of these things, 82% of people gave them a 4 or 5 because they fit well, they sound decent, and they can last for years and years. That might explain how they've been around since at least 2012. Look at this. The box still says iPod on it. Those still exist. Isn't that fun? Anyway, if your phone still has a headphone jack, there's really no reason not to check out any one of the 3 options that we gave you guys today. Just make sure that you're putting them on correctly. We'll have them linked in the video description. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes in design, business, technology, and more. And premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work that you love. One of our editors here, Taryn, has been using Skillshare a ton. So he's done courses on logo design, mastering Adobe Illustrator, and he's currently working through Duncan Rogoff's Mastering Adobe After Effects course. The cool thing is that Skillshare is also more affordable than most learning platforms out there, with an annual subscription coming in at less than $10 a month. So go check it out. Skillshare sponsored this video, and they're giving the first 500 people who use the promo link in the description 2 months for free. So thanks for watching, guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do. But if you appreciate that we actually got in this thing to make this video, or you liked the video in general, you can hit that like button, get subscribed, or consider checking out where to buy the stuff we featured at the link in the video description. Also down there is our merch store, which has cool shirts like this one, and our community forum, which you should totally join. I don't know what a knot is, but... 120 miles an hour. Okay. Oh, so we're going then. I'm sorry, what? I must have had something in my ear. Did you just say $800? Yes, I did, and oh look, I did have something in my ear. Sennheiser sent me a pair of IE800s. They're their top-tier in-ear, designed and exclusively manufactured in Germany, and at $800 MSRP, they're the most expensive earphones that I have ever used. But could they possibly be worth the price tag? I guess we'll find out, won't we? Massdrop is currently featuring the MSI GTX 1080 Armor 8G. Check it out and other drops at the link in the video description. I already know what you're thinking. At that price, they better come with a palm-sized string quartet that plays covers of your favorite show tunes on command, am I right? Well, you can think that, but you'd be completely wrong, because they totally don't. In fact, here's an observation that I've made about accessories in general. The higher end you go, it feels like the fewer things get included. I mean, have you ever shopped for a Red camera? I mean, of course you haven't, unless... Is that Marcus out there? Anyway, if you had, you'd know that the cost of the camera body is a hilariously small part of what you'll spend on the overall setup that you actually need to use the damn thing. So, following along those lines, while much less expensive earphones, like the new Force lineup from Optima that I reviewed recently, check that out here, include things like a waterproof carrying case, a backup cloth case, 2 nice cables with stylish braiding or a microphone inline if you prefer, and a complete set of silicone ear taps with a couple of comfy Comply foam ones thrown in. The IE800s include a cheesy, albeit leather, carrying case, some silicone ear tips, and a cleaning tool. Be still my heart. In Sennheiser's defense, the included ear tips address a problem that I've yet to find a solution for with the IE80s, my daily drivers, the way that wax gums up the mesh eventually. They have separate from the usual protective mesh covering the transducer or driver, a second mesh filter built right into the silicone ear tip. Cool. Unfortunately, this proprietary approach has resulted in very limited options when it comes to third-party ear tips from Comply or others. Damn it, Sennheiser. Though, as someone who is extremely careful with my ear tips and who prefers the sound and fit of silicone tips, I don't personally find this as big of an issue as some users who have gone as far as to perform surgery on other ear tips that they had lying around to try to use them with their IE800s. No. The one that I'm more upset about is the lack of a removable cable, a killer feature of the IE80s for people like me who wear their IEMs 10 plus hours a day, often while sleeping. This feature has allowed me to first replace my stock cable that failed with a new one, then buy the IE8i inline microphone as an upgrade that lets me use my IE80s as a hands-free. I mean, sure. The stock cable is Kevlar reinforced or whatever and is less likely to fail, and you can replace part of the cable with a pricey first-party microphone one, but it plugs into a sub-mini or 2.5mm jack that's positioned lower than the ideal microphone placement, and the last 8 inches or so is soldered to the earphone, making repairs to that part of the cable very time-consuming, costly, or both. Let's move on though to what the cable is attached to. On the inside of the in-ears, Sennheiser boasts a number of technological breakthroughs, from the 7mm extra wideband dynamic transducer to the dampened 2-chamber absorbers to the oval-shaped ear adapters to the scratch-resistant ceramic housing. But the IE800s just don't look very comfortable, do they? I'm used to the native over-the-ear cable design of their little cousin. The 2 weird ports on the back seem like they'd stick out and push the whole thing too far into your ear if you were to lie down on your side while wearing them, and whatever they might say about scratch resistance, the housings also look like they'll be kind of cold and hard against the inside of your ear. All of that, however, fortunately, is wrong. I've been pretty critical of this product so far, and if you're going to charge this much for something, it kind of comes with the territory, but I can't complain about the comfort. Even my wife, who generally hates in-ears, said about them, they just fit. Worn cable down with the smallest ear tips, I do find them a bit heavy due to that connector at the cable split, but I had no difficulty keeping them in place, even with one side dangling. And I discovered that though it shortens the already short cable a bit, bringing the cable over the ear allows significantly deeper insertion for a more secure fit, more noise isolation, improved microphonics, that sound that the cable can make that you hear in the in-ears, and, for me anyway, an ever so slightly more pleasing sound signature with a bit more thump. Which I guess leads us finally then to the listening experience. They're, I mean, come on, who didn't see this coming? Far and away the best I've ever heard. Highs are crystal clear and wonderfully detailed to the point where flaws in low bitrate files and the mastering of the top 40 trash that I normally listen to become much more apparent than with anything else I've ever listened to. Mids are not overpowerful, but I mean that in a good way. There's no veil for the vocals to fight through, but I don't feel like the rest of the music is being compromised either, leading us to bass where, yeah, they're not the most neutral, true to the original recording earphones on the market. I mean, if you really wanted that, you'd have a pair of Etymotic ER4 series already anyway. There is definitely some bass emphasis, but I mean that in the best possible way, with a shocking amount of kick in the lower range with fantastic control. These are really fun to listen to. And I don't normally talk about imaging much, but the IE800s gave me a new appreciation for this characteristic in a couple of ways, especially when worn cable down. For musical recording, pinpointing where on the stage the pianist was located was pretty cool, but, and I discovered this totally by accident, the open sound of these earphones also made VR better. Most in-ears feel like you're listening to something that's going on inside your head, kind of inside your skull. But the IE800s sound more like you're listening to something in the room around you. So they're noticeably more immersive feeling in this particular application. Leading us finally to answer that original question. Are they worth it? Don't be stupid. I mean, if you can't afford to blow nearly $1,000 after taxes on a pure luxury item, one that has inherent lifespan limiting flaws that I'd love to see addressed in an i801 or something, then no, they're not worth it. But I sure wouldn't kick them out of bed for eating crackers either. You know who else I wouldn't kick out of bed for eating crackers? Crunchyroll. They offer the most current episodes of new shows straight from Japan like ReZero or Orange. Wow, great job, Colton. You actually filled out the sheet this time. Good work. And they've got a large collection of the most popular anime series like Naruto Shippuden and Ace Attorney. All the content on the site is professionally subtitled, and all you gotta do is head over to crunchyroll.com/Linus, linked in the video description, to sign up for a free 30-day trial of Crunchyroll Premium that gives you a whole month of free anime with no ads whatsoever. And if you enjoy the many benefits of Premium, like 1080p streaming, getting new episodes of shows straight from Japan within an hour of their premiere, and being able to stream anywhere, anytime to a variety of devices. To a variety of devices, like your phone, tablet, or game console, you can continue your premium membership to Crunchyroll for only $7 a month. So head over there. It's crunchyroll.com/Linus and check them out. So thanks for watching, guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do. But if it was awesome, get subscribed, hit that like button, or check out the link to where to buy the stuff we featured at Amazon in the video description. Also linked in the description is our merch store, which has cool shirts like this one, and our community forum, which you can join and ask questions or answer questions or just generally talk tech. Now that you're done doing all that stuff, you're probably wondering what to watch next, so click that little button in the top right corner to check out our latest video over on Channel Superfun. I think it's like RC car racing or something. It's pretty fun. There's a big jump. The Pixel Buds come with a charging case, features exclusive to Pixel phones, and they're priced at $159, making them pretty much the Android equivalent to Apple's AirPods. But are these even close to as good, and can they deliver on their promise of offering magical, real-time translation, just like they did in the scripted on-stage demo?
I think Kinda Blue would suit you.
All right. We will see. Massdrop's best-selling Sennheiser HD6XX headphones are available again for only $200 so check them out at the link in the video description. First things first, the Pixel Buds are not truly wireless, but unlike some other neck buds like the Jaybird Freedoms, there's no battery bump or inline control. Everything is contained within the earbuds themselves. So why then does this cable exist at all? Well, it's actually integral to the Bud's design, starting with the fit. The loop formed at the cable's end actually goes inside-ish your ear and then can be adjusted for a nice snug fit and to keep them in. In practice, it causes a little bit more faffing about to put them in if the cable slips, but it works surprisingly well to hold them in place. And being able to hang them around your neck, it could be argued, is a convenient way to keep track of them. And besides, if you prefer truly wireless Pixel Buds, you can just DIY it anyway by cutting the I'm just kidding. Not only would cutting off the cable void your warranty, you'd also be totally screwed because the cable does conduct audio signals, not to mention power. The Bud's 5-hour, 120 milliamp hour battery is completely contained within the left bud and is not split between the two earphones like with Apple's AirPods. To charge the battery, you will need the included charging case. It is not as small or convenient or premium feeling as the AirPods case. I have some doubts about its long-term durability, and the lip around the edge is pretty stupid. Okay, you know what? I don't like it very much. But the process of putting the Buds in is about as good as it could be, considering that there's a cable to deal with, And it includes a magic pairing mechanism similar to Apple's, provided that you're running Android Nougat and that you have a little bit of luck. But let's just take them back out and use them. Compared to the AirPods, which only have one gesture, which can be remapped depending on your preference, per bud to pause, skip track, or summon Siri, Google's offers less flexibility at this time, but it does support more gestures thanks to a capacitive surface that is built into the right bud. So you can actually tap to play and pause, you can double tap to have notifications read to you, you can swipe to adjust volume, and you can hold it to summon the Google Assistant, which, by the way, is awesome on the Pixel Buds. The instant you touch the bud, no latency or even an acknowledgement tone, you can just start talking.
What's the price of Bitcoin?
Ordering it to play songs, get directions, or even send text messages, something that isn't supported on the Google Home yet.
Sorry, I can't send texts yet.
Oh, and one more thing. How about that real-time translation? Now, 2 months ago, Dennis and I tried out a different product with that same promise, and the results were, how do we put this tactfully? Totally broke dick. Okay, so now I'm actually not very certain if it's working properly. So let's see if Google can do any better today. You're not Dennis. Can you get Dennis? Okay, so you ready to try again?
Yes.
Oh my god, you kill me! Hello, it is very nice to meet you.
你好，也很高兴认识你。
Wow, it went through a lot of different iterations there.
好啊，那我们去看电影。你想要看什么电影？
Why is it that whenever we try to do one of these scenarios,
Welcome to Make Something with me, David Picciuto, and today I'm going to show you how to make picture frames and how to... Let's groove. So, I'm going to run this through the blade 4 times. I'm going to flip it over and run it through again, and that's going to center the groove. So now our frames are all dry without 14 inches. If you off. Use our fingers to make sure they are lined up perfect. Remember, we need equal length pieces, and we'll get Norm out of the way. Let's see if that actually worked. A blade exposed, plus the 1/8 of an inch for wiggle room. Our artwork is 11 by 14. I can up to reinforce, and that's going to center the groove. On the thickness on the planer. Groove. Tract, and that's going to loosen and shape off these. Flip this over to the other side. Cool. We'll let that sit dry for a little bit. So now our frames are all dry. I've taken the tape off. These joints are not very strong. They're just held together by glue, and it's basically just end grain in there. And it doesn't make for a very strong joint. As the seasons go by, the wood's going to expand and contract, and that's going to loosen and break eventually. So we need to reinforce them. I've got the spline jig over here on my table saw. I've got a video on making this. I'll have a link down in the description as well as at the end of the video if you want to learn how to make this. For this first picture frame, we're going to do splines. And then the next one, I'm going to show you a different method that doesn't involve a jig. So I'm going to run this through the blade 4 times. I'm going to flip it over and run it through again, and that's going to center the groove. We cut these splines out over on the bandsaw and then plane them down to thickness on the planer. They got a nice tight fit. And all we're going to do is just shove them in there. Something I forgot to mention, when I was cutting the splines over at the table saw, I'm using a flat bottom grind blade, which leaves a nice flat bottom. So I have these little holes in there. A lot of combination blades don't leave a flat bottom, and you'll see a little hole there. If you don't have a flat bottom grind blade, don't worry about it. You can just fill that little hole. It's really small. You can just fill it with some sawdust and glue. For this one, we're not going to do splines. We're going to hack it. We're going to take a Forstner bit, and we're going to drill down about 1/8 of an inch. Then we're going to take a hole saw bit and cut out of 1/8 inch plywood little circular discs that will fit in there. This is the back of the picture frame, so it's not going to be pretty, but it's the back, and so you're not going to see it. And plus, we're going to put a dust cover on here, and let me show you how that's done over at the drill press. A 1 5/8 inch Forstner bit on my drill press, and then the hole saw bit is 1 3/4 inch. Take this over here. And it'll fit right in there, just like that. So we're just going to fill this with glue. Now I doubt this is as strong as the splines, but it's a picture frame. Dry. We're going to use this flush trim saw, and we're just going to cut the excess off. Now it is time to cut the glass. You don't have to use glass. You could use a piece of acrylic, and you can cut that over at the table saw. But I'm going to attempt to cut glass. I've got a little glass cutter here. I've got my line drawn on the glass with a Sharpie, which I should be able to wipe off. And I'm just going to use this board as a straight edge here. So now we take a pencil and we put it underneath there, right on our score line, and in theory, it breaks just like that. I'm using a black mat with a white core. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the outside dimensions. You can use a utility knife or an X-Acto knife. I got this rotary cutter here. Now we're going to do the other side of glue on there, and then let that dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back and let that dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll add more glue, and that stops the glue from soaking into the wood too much. All right, so that's been sitting a few minutes. Now we can glue the other side to it. And again, just more glue and tape. Flip this over, do the other side. Cool, we'll let that sit dry for a little bit. So now our frames are all dry. I've taken the tape off. These joints are not very strong. They're just held together by glue, and it's basically just end grain in there. It doesn't make for a very strong joint. As the seasons go by, the wood's going to expand and contract, and that's going to loosen and break eventually. So we need to reinforce them. I've got the spline jig over here on my table saw. I've got a video on making this. I'll have a link down in the description as well as at the end of the video if you want to learn how to make this. For this first picture frame, we're going to do spline. And then the next one, I'm going to show you a different method that doesn't involve a jig. So I'm going to run this through the blade 4 times. I'm going to flip it over and run it through again, and that's going to center the groove. We cut these splines out over on the bandsaw and then plane them down to thickness on the planer. They got a nice tight fit. And all we're going to do is just shove them in there. Something I forgot to mention, when I was cutting the splines over at the table saw, I'm using a flat bottom grind blade, which leaves a nice flat bottom, so I won't have these little holes in there. A lot of combination blades don't leave a flat bottom, and you'll see a little hole there. If you don't have a flat bottom grind blade, don't worry about it. You can just fill that, it's really small. You can just fill it with some sawdust and glue. For this one, we're not going to do splines. We're going to hack it. We're going to take a Forstner bit and we're going to drill down about 1/8 of an inch. Then we're going to take a hole saw bit and cut out a 1/8 inch plywood circular disc that will fit in there. This is the back of the picture frame, so it's not going to be pretty, but it's the back, and so you're not going to see it. And plus, we're going to put a dust cover on here, and let me show you how that's done over at the drill press. A 1 5/8 inch Forstner bit on my drill press, and then the hole saw bit is 1 3/4 inch. Take this over here. And they'll fit right right in there just like that. So we're just going to fill this with glue. Now I doubt this is as strong as the splines, but it's a picture frame. We'll let that dry. We're going to use this flush trim saw, and we're just going to cut the excess off. Now it is time to cut the glass. You don't have to use glass. You could use a piece of acrylic and you can cut that over at the table saw. But I'm going to attempt to cut glass. I got a little glass cutter here. I've got my line drawn on the glass with a Sharpie, which we should be able to wipe off. And I'm just going to use this board as a straight edge here. So now, we take a pencil and we put it underneath there, right on our score line, and in theory, it breaks just like that. I'm using a black mat with a white core. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the outside dimensions. You can use a utility knife or an X-Acto knife. I got this rotary cutter here. Now we're going to draw our inside mat, and we're going to use this mat cutter, and it has, so there's a little blade in there, and it's at a 45-degree angle. So as we cut, it reveals a little bevel along the outside, which will give it a nice little white border. So drew our inside dimensions here, and it's going to overlap the artwork by 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And there's a little mark over here on the right side. I can line that up with my line. Plunge down. And come all the way down until those two lines meet up right there. You see that right there? So we can do the same over here. Now it should fall right out of there. So for this paint, we're going to treat it like a photograph. So we're going to have this, then we're going to have our mat over that, and then behind that is going to be our illustration board, which is going to protect it from the point drivers or the brad nails. That's all going to be covered with glass, and then that is going to fit into our frame. Take our artwork here. We're going to use some acid-free tape. Then we're going to set our mat over top of that. And we will only tape it on the one side. We'll leave it hinged like this so it can move. Like wood, paper expands and contracts over the seasons as well, so you don't want to tape all the sides because it's going to get wrinkly over time. Now, you can use a point driver. I have this one from Logan, but something is wrong with mine where it keeps jamming up, and I've never had good luck with it. Other people have told me different stories and said they love theirs. So what I do instead is I use vice grips and little brad nails. On my vice grips here, I have a little frame on here so I don't ruin my frame, and I'm just going to pinch them right in there.
Goodness gracious.
So now we're going to put a dust cover on the back of this. I got some craft paper here. Kind of mark a line where it is so I know where to spray my adhesive. And I'm just using Super 77. Place it right on here. Press it on real good and cut off the excess. wall because and we're all done. There it is. I would like to take a minute to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is DesignCrowd. DesignCrowd is a website that helps you outsource business cards, illustration, t-shirt design, web development, and much more from designers all over the world. DesignCrowd has over 600,000 designers to help you get the perfect custom design every time with a money-back guarantee. So here's how it works. You post a creative brief describing what you need. Within hours, you'll start receiving designs. Over the course of 3 to 10 days, you'll receive anywhere from 60 to 100 plus designs. And you can provide feedback to the designers and request revisions. You then pick your best design and approve payment to the creator. Check it. I posted a creative brief with a t-shirt idea that I had, and almost instantly I started receiving designs from all over the world. So if you need a custom graphic, website, t-shirt design, or anything that requires a designer, check out designcrowd.com/makesomething to learn more and save up to $100 when you start your next project. Again, Make Something viewers receive up to $100 off their design project at designcrowd.com/makesomething. Thanks, DesignCrowd. Now let's get back to these picture frames. There they are. All the wood for these picture frames came from my friends at KenCraft at kencraftcompany.com. They do sell online. They're in the Toledo area. Stop by and say hello. They're really good friends of mine. So in the description down below, I will have links to the picture frame making sled as well as woodworkers. We tend to make a lot of picture frames, and those two jigs really speed up the process. For good picture frames, you need to have two things. You need to have perfect miters, and you also need to have perfect length. And that's where that jig comes in really handy. In a future video, we're going to do some more advanced picture frames that involve layering and inlays and complicated profiles using router bit. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a formula to figure out how much wood you need for picture frames. It's a little complicated, so here we go. It's the width of your frame times 2 plus the art width equals A. Then you take your frame width times 2 plus your art length, and that equals B. A plus B times 2 equals the total length of wood that you need. And then you need to add 2 more inches to that to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. So for example, if your artwork is 11 by 14 and your frame is 2 inches wide, you take your frame width times 2 plus 11, and that gives you 15. And then for the length, you take your frame width times 2 plus 14 equals 18, and then 15 plus 18 times 2 equals 66. Add another 2 inches on there for safety, and you've got a total of 68 inches. So you need a 68-inch board. I know it's complicated. I rarely ever use that formula. Usually I just eyeball it, but that has gotten me in trouble in the past, and so I just wanted to throw that out there for you. There will be a link to my website that will go into detail a little bit more. So let me talk about the